Hi, everyone. It's Ashley James with Good Morning Maryland. Thanks so much for joining us for our monthly Facebook Live with GBMC. We have a great guest this morning. We have her on quite often now, I feel like, and it's so fun to talk to. We have Jana Wolff, the Director of Nutrition at the Comprehensive Obesity Management Program at GBMC. She is joining us to talk about all things health and eating healthy and how to really read those food labels, which is very hard for people. So, good morning, Jana. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So we started talking about this just a few minutes ago, but I think a lot of people can relate that during this pandemic, some of us have put on an extra few lbs, if you know what I mean. And it's been tough for people. So I'm sure that weight loss and eating healthy and kind of getting back on track is on a lot of people's minds.
Totally. And I work with patients every single day, all day long. And this is pretty much what I'm hearing. And we actually were talking before we went live, and some people are losing and some people are gaining. But regardless of where you're at with your weight management journey, it doesn't matter. It's always good to know what to look at on a food label, because we all go grocery shopping. Even if we're online going grocery shopping, you still need to know what to look for, because these food companies are trying to have you buy their product.
Right.
So the marketing on the front of the product is always going to be flashy and gorgeous, and you're going to want to buy it, right?
Exactly.
But when you turn the label around, it's usually a different story. I did bring a few products if you want to go through some of them.
Yeah, because I think we hear some of these words like organic, non-GMO, natural, like all of that kind of stuff. So when you see that, should you be paying attention to those words?
You can if you want to, but you also want to turn it around and see how much fat, calories, sugar. The new label, there is a new label since 2020 that shows us a little bit more about the product, like the calories are bigger and the serving size is bigger. So those things jump out at you at first. But I just want to give a couple of examples, because these are things that I see my patients get fooled by all the time. So first, these naked drinks. They seem really healthy because they have all this, fruits and vegetables in them, especially this one. It says protein in it. Woo. So I turn around and I say, okay, the goodness inside. So there's no preservatives. There's no sugar added. It's gluten-free. I'm like, wait, this is perfect. I can just drink this and it can even be a meal because it has 31 grams of protein in it. But when I really turn it around to look at the actual food label, okay, so this is the food label on the back that everyone should be looking at. It seems a little bit overwhelming and confusing, but if I go all the way down to where it says total sugars, it says 50 grams. And what that really means, in my head, what I do is a little calculation. I always do the sugars divided by 4, okay? Because that will give you how many packs, those little white packs of sugar, how many that equates to. So if you do 50 divided by 4, you get about 12.5 packets of sugar right in here.
Wow.
So you have to think, would you ever take 12 and a half
right.
sugars and open it up and just, consume
so that's
them?
A simple equation. Is there a number that when you see sugars, you usually say, okay, no more than this, that's it?
Yeah, we like to keep total sugars down. So the FDA recommends like less than 50 grams per day, and that's already in this one drink.
Okay.
So you want to make sure like you're doing that calculation in your head maybe, or you can look for things that are less than like 5 grams of sugar, 5 grams of added sugar. Okay.
And Jen, I want you to hold just there because I want to let everyone know that this is interactive. And if you have any questions for Jana, write in. We're going to have her answer our questions. We have her here. We have the expert, so we have to use her. So write in those questions, and it can be broad. She is the expert in nutrition and health. And so we want you to ask away. So I just wanted to remind everyone to do that. But I did have some questions that were sent in earlier. So I'll keep asking you those. What is the best way to tell if a product is good? We just talked about sugar. Is there another ingredient or something that we should look at, or another number that should stand out and say like, no, or yes, this is good?
Sometimes I look right to the ingredients that are right under the nutrition label. And if it's a really long list of ingredients, even that I don't recognize, I'll usually put it down. I tend to shop on the outer aisle of the grocery store. I'm sure many people have heard this tip. Typically, like, there are other things on the outer aisle of the grocery store, like the bakery and, all that. But you'll usually get your fresh fruits and vegetables, your low-fat dairy, your proteins, your whole grains, all of the main nutrition components that you should have in each meal are usually located around the outer aisle of the grocery store.
I was going to ask you that because somebody wrote in. So that is somewhat true as to keeping out of the outer.
Think of your main.
Okay.
If you think of your main food groups, they're usually on the outer aisle. If you think of the inner aisles, there's usually like, the sodas, the snacks, the candies, the sugary cereals, things like that. Now, of course, you're going to go up and down the aisles and get what you need because there are really healthy things inside the aisles.
Right.
But I would actually make a list before you go in and not just wander around, and do not go to the grocery store hungry. That's the first thing.
Okay, so we have some questions coming in. So cereals. I know I'm sort of in this phase with my son right now. He loves to snack on those Honey Nut Cheerios. But cereals, what is the sugar content that we should not go over? And what are your thoughts on cereal in general?
Yeah, cereal in general is fine as long as the sugar is a little bit lower. I usually tend to look for the ones that are non-sweetened, especially, I know this doesn't sound as exciting, but things like the high fiber cereals. Also, Goline by Kashi is a really good one because it has a nice addition of the protein. The thing about cereals is that it doesn't have a lot of protein in it. Mm-hmm. But my sort of theory is that everything can fit into a diet, okay? But you have to follow the serving size. The serving size is right at the top of the nutrition label. If you follow that and you use maybe like a fat-free or 1% milk in there, and then you pair it with a protein like a couple of boiled eggs, or a little protein shake, or, some turkey bacon, something like that, you're fine because then you have a balanced meal.
Okay, so Dorothy writing in, having these sugar guidelines, super helpful. That grams of sugar divided by 4 calculation. I'm going to use that. Okay, what do you think about intermittent fasting?
I think that there's a good amount of research on it, that it's good for managing blood sugars. I tend to believe, though, that any sort of change in your diet, whether it's intermittent fasting, etc., doesn't matter. You're going to be removing some of the excess that you typically consume, not even realizing it. Intermittent fasting is usually picking a time frame where you can eat anything you want. But I do recommend not just having like one meal a day and calling it a day. For some people that does work. I know for a lot of my patients with type 2 diabetes or blood sugar issues or even pre-diabetes, you need to keep your blood sugar stable throughout the day. So having a few meals with protein and healthy carbohydrates all throughout the day will keep your blood sugar more stable. And I think that that's important for everyone, regardless of your health status.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like I hear some people say, eat those small meals. And then some people say, oh, the intermittent fasting. It's like, that seems very different. But
everyone's different. I mean, if you try something that works for you, that you can do very much long term, and it's not harming your health, like a lot of my or some of my patients, or some people that I even talk to, my friends, they'll say, oh, I'm just eating from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Is that going to harm your health? No. Is it going to be helpful to make sure that you're not eating late at night? Yeah, maybe. I do recommend having, again, the 3 meals if you can, 1 to 2 snacks if necessary. But there is something to be said about mindful eating. Like if you're actually hungry, not denying yourself food, because then you're going to overeat later. Okay. Or if you're full and you're feeling satisfied, actually learning how to stop and move away from the table. That's something that a lot of us, we go back and have the snack after dinner and all of that when it might not even be necessary.
We have to talk about this, and then we have some more questions coming in. But something you said before we started this, I have been going to the pantry nonstop because, I've been bored during the day, and you gave me some advice that I'm going to follow. I'm going to try this. Okay. So what was it?
So the advice is have a yoga mat right behind you. If you're working from home, this is one of the most I think common things that I've heard so far is like, oh, I'm going to put off that paper that I have to write, or I'm going to put off that email and I'm just going to run to the pantry. So, two things: you can have a yoga mat right behind you. And the minute that you want to go to the kitchen, just do a couple sit-ups or a few push-ups on your knees, or, a couple squats, wall squats, anything like that. Just to push the time off. Usually after, 20 minutes, you don't usually need that snack if you're not physically hungry. If you are physically hungry, have a balanced meal. And then also making your environment a little bit more user-friendly. I always tell everyone, nobody really has willpower. The people that have willpower make their environment easier to live in without always constantly going to the pantry. So for instance, me, I can't have cookies in the house. If I have cookies in the house, I'm going to go immediately to the pantry and eat them and not care. So I don't keep them in the house. And if you know that there are things that you cannot keep in the house because you're just going to eat them, take them out, give them to a friend.
Okay, let's take some more of these questions. How do you feel about sparkling water in this? I don't know if I'm saying this right. I don't know what Stead sodas are. Steed sodas. How do you feel about the sparkling water?
If the sparkling water has no sugar in it, then yeah, go ahead. Or if it's lower in sugar, that's perfectly fine. So I work at the Comprehensive Obesity Management program, where we do sleeve gastrectomies and Roux-en-Y gastric bypass surgeries. So after those surgeries, if you have had that surgery, or if you're looking to get that surgery, you're not supposed to have carbonated beverages, because all of that gas can really press on the stomach lining and you're going to have this tiny new stomach. So we don't recommend that after surgery. So my patients are probably like, why is she saying, yes, you can have it? But if you don't have the surgery and you're having some sparkling water or, like LaCroix or whatever, La Croix, you can have that whenever, and it's still hydrating. I actually brought this because my patients told me about this, and then I tried it and it's really good. It's called Hint Water.
Okay.
And this has 0 calories, and it's just regular water. It's not even carbonated, and it has a nice flavor to it. So if you're just sick of drinking water, that's a good one to drink.
Okay. Some more questions coming in. What are your thoughts on the fat content in these alternative non-dairy milks? So like cashew, walnut, oat, rice milk?
They're usually low fat. They're usually very low fat. So it's almost like, like think of it this way: cashew milk, almond milk. What they do is they crush up the almonds or the cashews and they just soak it in water. And then all of the byproducts are kind of like taken out, and then you have the milk. So there's not really much in the way of fat in those. If you wanted some healthy fats from, let's say, nuts, you can have, a small handful or 1/4 of a cup, and you get those healthy fats from those.
Okay. Good information. More questions coming in. Any advice for weight loss during menopause?
Oh, this is, I would actually recommend exercise. So weight-bearing exercises can help to build up your lean muscle. As we age, our muscle actually decreases in size, our lean internal muscle. So I'm not telling you to get bulky or anything. Get some light weights and start to do some weight-bearing exercises, because that will increase your muscle mass and potentially over time increase your metabolism. And again, eating your 3 meals per day, not snacking at night, and also getting some good sleep and stress management. All of those things, the whole wellness spectrum does play into your weight. So that can be helpful later, during menopause.
Okay. Dorothy says, as a produce salesperson, I get told often by consumers I can't have fruit or I can't have many veggies because of the sugars. What is some advice about that? And just to piggyback off that, I have heard more so recently about the sugars in fruits.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, what do you tell people with like the fruits and veggies and hearing sugars in them?
These same people, or maybe not the same people, but some people will say that, but they won't say, well, I can't have the candy or the cake or the cookies or the fruit juice, or, so like, what about all those other things? You know, a piece of fruit, one piece of fruit, medium size to small size, is a good amount of sugar. It's anywhere from like 15 to 20 grams of sugar, but that is a fructose sugar, and it's combined with vitamins, minerals, and fiber. And by the way, it never made you gain weight in the first place. If your blood sugars increase from eating a piece of fruit, like if you do have pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes, fine, pair it with a protein. So I always tell my patients, take your apple or your small banana or something like that and have a cheese stick with it or a Greek yogurt with it, and make it a little bit more balanced, because the protein can balance out your blood sugars.
Okay. Question coming in from Crystal. Thoughts on keto for weight loss versus low carb?
So keto is very, very low carb, very high fat. And then there's just low carb, you know, like sort of an Atkins. These two both will likely, you know, 9 times out of 10 make you lose weight, right? But how long can you manage being on keto? That's the question. Because if you say, you know what, I could do this for a month, great. What about after that month? So you have to realize that going up and down in your weight might be more harmful than keeping your weight stable at a higher number. So if you find that this type of diet plan is good for you, great. But remember, the long-term studies on keto are not there. It can slightly change the pH of your blood, which is not, in my opinion, the best thing. And if you can't keep on that for long enough, then might as well meet yourself somewhere in the middle so you can do something for a long period to come.
Okay. Another question. I have Crohn's and lupus. Any recommendations that are good for both autoimmune issues and that can help you lose weight?
So I would refer you to a dietitian that specializes in Crohn's and lupus and autoimmune deficiencies, because unfortunately, that's not my specialty, and I don't want to give a general recommendation for that. But if you go on eatright.org, you can find in your area dietitians that specialize in this. So that's eatright.org.
Eatright.org. Okay, great. Another question. How do you feel about the 3-day elimination diet, especially for children who keep complaining of stomach aches? Are 3 days enough to figure out if they can't tolerate dairy or lactose or too much iron, etc.?
I'm going to give you the same answer as the eatright.org, because okay. I don't specialize in children's nutrition, unfortunately. And again, I don't want to give those recommendations. Right. And of course, like, you have to remember that a lot of these recommendations are generalized. So like if a doctor or a dietitian looks at your child and sees like, you know, a different health history that they wouldn't recommend that 3-day elimination diet, or something else is going on, you know, that's important for them to get a full workup and to see what's really happening and what can help them specifically.
Okay, have a lot of people commenting, such great advice. You are spectacular. Of course, we love having Jana in. All right, some more questions. Gluten-free products.
Yes.
Is that better?
Oh my goodness.
Free?
Wait, I have one right here. I have an example. So gluten-free, I have these, they're basically like Nutri-Grain bars, okay? But they're gluten-free. All right. Now, if you have celiac disease or you are very intolerant to gluten, now gluten is actually a protein within, wheat flour. So if you have the intolerance to gluten, yes, absolutely take it out. And you can work with a dietitian to figure out, you know, which products are good for you. But the idea of making something gluten-free, taking out the gluten from it, doesn't inherently make it more healthy, and it doesn't lower its carb count. Okay, so a lot of people think, oh, gluten-free, lowering carbs, cool. No, it's the same amount of sugar, same amount of calories, same amount of fat. Even this, it has, 12 grams of sugar, 6 grams of added sugar on top of that. So you're going to, do the math. That's 12 divided by 4. So that's a lot of packets of sugar anyway. Right. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing as like your Nutri-Grain bar.
So what you're saying is if you don't have a gluten intolerance and you don't need to be gluten-free, there's really no need for you to eat it. Unless you like it.
Unless you like it.
You really like
Absolutely.
it. Okay.
There's tons of grains that are gluten-free. You have brown rice, you have quinoa. You can go across the board. You could have your sweet potatoes. There's tons of stuff. Corn. If you're looking for healthy starches that are gluten-free, there's a ton of them. But essentially, you don't have to follow that if you don't have an intolerance.
And you may have just answered this question. We have another question that came in. What grains do you recommend for type 2 diabetes?
Yeah. So I usually recommend grains that are whole and that have like the shell on them. So brown rice, you know how it's brown versus the white rice. It has higher fiber in it, and that can help to regulate your blood sugar. But I also see a lot of people, like if they just had, let's say they had a stir fry, they made their own brown rice stir fry, and it just had vegetables in it, let's say. There was no protein in there, there's minimal fat. That could actually increase your blood sugar. So I would pair your carbs in general, because your healthy starches are still carbs. They might just have a little bit higher fiber content. I would still pair those with protein like chicken or fish or shrimp or, low fat dairy, eggs, or some healthy fats like olive oil, peanut butter, nuts, seeds.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Some more questions that have come in. Oh, what I wanted to ask you, when it comes to weight loss surgery, who would be a good candidate? When do you get to that point, versus trying to lose weight just on your own, and who becomes a candidate for weight loss surgery?
Right. So the insurance companies will usually pay for weight loss surgery if someone is a 35 BMI or higher with a comorbidity. Comorbidities are things like sleep apnea, type 2 diabetes, hypertension. And then if you're over 40, if you're 40 or above BMI, that's when you do not have to have a comorbidity, and it will be usually approved. You would have to check with your insurance company. And you can use this preventatively. Like if you're over 40 BMI and you do not have a comorbidity, you can get the surgery and prevent the comorbidities in the future.
Okay.
So
Okay. And what is the recovery on a surgery like that?
Usually 2 to 3 weeks. It takes about 3 months to like fully heal, but about 2 to 3 weeks until you can, do some light exercise. We actually recommend right when you get home that you get up and walk every hour. Okay. So, people are feeling pretty good. You do have to stay hydrated. You do have to follow the directions to make sure that you feel good after surgery, but likely about 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay. For people who are working from home right now, a question came in: what can I keep in the house to help make me feel energized and help me maintain my weight, especially, during this pandemic?
Yes. So first off, you can meal prep. You can have some meals that are ready to go. And those meals should be balanced. So again, having a source of protein, like for me, I always like to have frozen turkey burgers and cauliflower rice and, some sweet potatoes in the fridge ready to go. That for me is like easy. Or some, turkey meatballs or chicken meatballs. You can have regular, if they're, I usually recommend leaner. Have some, red sauce that's lower in sugar. I usually go for 6 grams or less with the red sauce for sugar, and some frozen vegetables that you could just throw on top. So easy, quick things that you don't have to think about or prepare. That's the best way to go. What you shouldn't have in the house are what I call your trigger foods. I mentioned them before. For me, it's cookies or sweets, even things like chips. So I just wanted to show you one thing about chips.
Okay.
Because I did bring another product that I thought was pretty interesting. Because we're always looking for like snack foods that are healthier, you look at a package like this and it says less sodium, 50% reduced.
And honestly, Jana, I'm just going to let you know that I bite every time. I'm like, yes, less sodium.
Yes, this is
for me.
The people are paid to make the front of the packaging very appealing. Yeah. So they do a good job. Now, if you are watching your sodium, if you do have high blood pressure, yes, of course, you want to get the lower sodium options. But the nutrition value on this is exactly the same, minus the sodium, is exactly the same as a regular chip.
Gotcha. Okay? More questions coming in. How do you overcome late night hunger?
This is it's a big question, because a lot of people have issues with late night hunger. Now, I always ask, do you eat enough during the day? Like, is it actual physical hunger? And if it's not actual physical hunger, great. Then there's a couple of things we could do. I'm going to start with if it is physical hunger, though. It might mean that you're not getting enough nutrients during the day. A lot of people like to restrict and say, oh, I'm doing so well, up until 4 o'clock, and then you're eating whatever. Mm-hmm. And then at night you want to have a snack on top of it. People pair relaxation and watching TV or, just like winding down with a snack. So we have to break that pairing. It's almost like, the cigarette and the coffee, those things are paired together. So once you do one thing, your brain is triggered to do the other thing. If you find that this is an issue with you, A, keep the snacks out of the house. B, it usually takes about 20 minutes for a craving to pass. Sometimes I'll just pop a sugar-free gum in my mouth if I know that I've had enough for the day, mm-hmm. or I might be thirsty. Sometimes thirst comes in the form of a little bit of hunger. Or just do something else. Call my mom, call whoever. So doing something else or even getting outside, anything that will take you away from the kitchen, if and only if you're not physically hungry, but it's just kind of like a mouth or a head hunger that you just want something.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's see. Another question coming in. Diane says, love the advice. Do you recommend eating 6 smaller meals and adding a few protein shakes during the day?
I guess it depends. Protein shakes are interesting. They don't really fill you up as much as a full meal because it's not solid. So if you find that protein shakes don't keep you for long enough or don't hold you, then don't have them. They're not 100% necessary. A lot of my patients that go through surgery, they have to have protein shakes right after surgery because they can't have solid foods since your stomach is healing. So you have to have a liquid source of protein. Sometimes they can't get enough protein in their diet because they're not hungry enough. Mm-hmm. So getting the shake in is a way to supplement the diet with extra protein. If you find that it's easy for you, you're like, you know what, I have a salad, but I don't have any protein with it. Let me grab a protein shake. It's easy. Then fine. Yeah, sure.
Okay. You mentioned some of your kind of go-to meals that you prep, keep in the fridge. But what about the snacks? We've talked that a lot of people just want to eat something. And when you really are craving a snack, what are some healthy go-tos that you can have in your house?
Yeah. I challenge people to think about snacks as small meals. So even if you had like a little bit of leftover from a previous meal, that could be a good snack because it can actually hold you and fuel you. If you're really just looking for something crunchy, you can, people are going to roll their eyes, but you can have your baby carrots, your cucumbers, your sliced carrots with some hummus or some low-fat dressing. You can do, there's those little Parmesan crisps. If you're watching your carbohydrate count and you don't want to do regular chips because you're going to eat the whole bag, there are things called Quest protein chips. Those have a good amount of protein in them, so they actually fill you up. If you are going to just have some regular chips, who cares? Try to figure out the serving size. It always says it on the top of the label, and just, divvy out the portion size into a bowl, take it away from the kitchen so you're not going back and forth and eating more and more and more.
Gotcha. I want to touch back on organic or organic foods.
Yeah.
Should we be trying to eat more organic? And, I see this a lot where the organic seems to be a lot more pricey at the store. But mm-hmm. Is it something that we should be aiming to eat?
Not necessarily. I mean, if you can't afford the organic options, you can just get the regular options. And sometimes actually they're even organic. It costs a lot of money to get the organic label onto a piece of food or a product. So I would recommend, eating fruits and vegetables, especially that's what people are looking for. Should my fruits and vegetables be organic? Yes, it doesn't hurt. Organic is basically not using extra synthetic fertilizers or pesticides, and at least 95% of the ingredients are organic. So that's great. I always recommend that. And it's nice to have that. But if it is really cutting into your budget and you just want to buy more fruits and vegetables, take them home, really clean them well. There are actually vegetable and fruit cleaners that you can get to get the pesticides off of them.
Okay. And I know that you could bang this into my head so many times, but sometimes I just need this reminder. So I'm assuming other people sometimes do too. But, if you're at the start where, you want to lose some weight, it's not all about going to the gym, right? It really starts with, how much of it is what we eat?
So both exercise and diet play a role in your weight management. Absolutely. Some people are looking for a major drop on the scale, and you're not going to get that from the gym, but maybe in like 2 months, you'll get some droppage. But that's why it has to become part of your lifestyle, because it's not an overnight or a 1 week or 2 week thing. So I would start by incorporating both. Any type of physical activity that you love, start doing it. If you can do it every day for 20 minutes, awesome. If you can't, do it 3 times a week, do it once a week. It doesn't matter. You got to start somewhere. And exercise can help with all other aspects of weight management, like stress and sleep, which play such a role that we don't even realize on a day-to-day basis how big of a role that plays in our weight management. And it can also regulate your blood sugar. So over time, if you're exercising often, your hunger levels might even out a little bit more, which is nice. And if you're wondering, yes, you're going to drop more pounds on a scale if you're watching how much you consume. So one of the best ways to do that, if you're just starting out and you want to see how much you're actually consuming right now, download an app like MyFitnessPal or Lose It or Berrytastic, and just see on a regular day how much you're eating. Log it in and say, oh, okay, maybe I'm consuming a little extra, maybe a little over 2,000 calories, 2,200 calories, 3,000 calories, and not even realizing it. So that's a good way to raise your awareness.
All right, before we go, we have another question that came in. Speaking of protein, how do we calculate how much we are supposed to be having per day? Some days it seems like we eat a ton, others not so much. Is there a tool out there to determine roughly how much we should have?
So you can actually go on to, again, MyFitnessPal will give you, based on your height, your weight, your gender, what you're supposed to be consuming for weight management. There is a calculation. It's a little more tough, like 1.2 to 2 times the kilograms of weight that you weigh. And that's a little bit more, you might actually want to see a dietitian based on that, especially if you have any health history, or if you have like chronic kidney disease, or you have to watch your protein in any way. So you can you could even Google how do I calculate my protein? And it'll be anywhere from 1.2 to 2 grams times your kilograms that you weigh. And you can figure out your kilograms by taking your weight and dividing it by 2.2. I know that's like,
thank goodness there are calculators.
Yeah, I know. It's it's very complicated. That's why I just say, if you're just casually wondering how much you should consume, you can just go on to MyFitnessPal or Lose It or Berrytastic. Some people take their weight, they divide it by 2. There's a couple of different ways of doing it.
Okay, well, those are all great tools, great resources. Do you guys have at GBMC a website? I know we put it up there, but just want to have you talk about it a little bit, and also what resources you offer.
Yes, of course. So we are available at gbmc.org/weight loss. We are taking patients, and we mostly only see the patients that are interested in getting weight loss surgery, but you can sign up at any time. Just go to the website. We are 100% virtual, so our entire office is virtual. I'm seeing patients every single day, all day, and I also have tons of support groups. I have guest speakers at our support groups multiple times a month. And we even have a medical weight loss program that we're doing now, where I do 2 support groups per week. So there's a lot to offer. I have all of my educational materials online. So I offer meal planning and, grocery lists and all of that.
Yeah. And it sounds like that is super helpful in being successful, is having those support systems and someone holding you accountable.
We have an entire Facebook group that is private, secret, that anyone can join. And it's one of the best resources that we have. And I would say in any weight loss program, this is the best resource that we've ever had, because you have all of the people that have gotten surgery or are getting surgery asking questions, getting good advice, seeing what people are eating, all of that. And it's just a big family. So I love it. It's part of my job. I answer questions all the time. So that's, I think, one of the best pieces of our program is the support system.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. A lot of people writing in saying thank you. You have been an incredible resource for them. Jana,
thank you.
Director of Nutrition at the Comprehensive Obesity Management Program at GBMC. Jana, thank you so much. It was so fun to talk to you today and see you again, even if it's
the
computer.
I know. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
All right. Thanks, Jana. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.